Well, my name's Andrew Teale. Like I mentioned earlier on, I wear several hats. I am a trustee for Roots to Roots, but I'm also the service manager for St Mungo's in the southwest. So I oversee the rough sleeper outreach teams for both Bournemouth and Poole. It is quite interesting as well because as well as being the trustee and the service manager of a service that works alongside and in partner with Roots to Roots, I was actually a service user of this service around 10 years ago, and I was actually sat in that church doorway there with Pat, who is, in there today. So I've got a passion for this sort of work, and I've got an understanding and a lot of love, I think is the best way to put it. But I think from the service manager angle, I have to be strategic, and that's where it all comes in. And I think I just love doing what I do, I enjoy it. What happens is, in Poole, is we have, through Homeless Link, every November we have to do what's called a street count. So once a year, we go out at midnight, we go out for several hours, and we have to identify people sleeping. I personally don't like street counts. I think they're very suggestive. They are, but we have to do it. The numbers have stayed around the same, and they've been around the sort of 10 mark. This year we're showing a slight decrease, and that is across Poole and Bournemouth, because I can't leave Bournemouth out, because I think the numbers have gone down significantly there to what they were last year. Poole hovers around just into double digits. SWEP, the Severe Weather Emergency Protocol, historically in Poole, what happened was, SWEP in Poole and Bournemouth anyway, right at the start, you have to have 3 consecutive nights with 0 or below. Annoying, inhumane, call it what you want, but that's what it is at the moment, that's what the protocol is. In Poole, if SWEP was activated, then I would monitor the website, and then once I see that it's going to be, I make a decision to call SWEP. And from that, I send one of my deputies sends out an email to all partner agencies, and then everybody is informed that SWEP will be on that day. And from that, we used to use a church about 3 miles out of Poole, so we'd have to meet the rough sleepers at 8 o'clock at the Salvation Army, put them into cars, drive up there, and then just keep doing that. And it was a bit of a nightmare. I took over this job just over a year ago, and one of my first sort of, I suppose, jobs was to move the SWEP location, and working with Roots to Roots, the church, we were able to do that. So now we have SWEP here. So once SWEP's called, everybody comes here at about 8 o'clock. We provide them with tea, coffee, but what it does for us, we get enhanced time with that person. So we get them in at sort of like 8:30. We'll spend a couple of hours with them, and then hopefully they'll get bedded down 10:30, 11 o'clock. But what we do, we sort of like create almost a single service offer. So from that, we'll give them a list of appointments to attend the next day. We'll support them through it. It just gives us a better working relationship with them. I like SWEP. My staff hate SWEP because they don't really hate it, but it just means that they're up all the time. It's because we try to run a day service as well as running SWEP all night, because we have to man SWEP, we can't leave it. So we have to have 2 staff there. SWEP's great. I activated SWEP last summer when it was red hot, because it was just too hot. So what we did, I put a partial activation on SWEP, and I spent an enormous amount of money on water, sun cream and hats. And I went out and gave all the rough sleepers lots of water, lots of sun cream and a funky hat. And that is severe weather. It doesn't have to be cold. It can be wet, it can be snowy, it can be boiling. But some of the worst weather you can have for a rough sleeper, it's not when it's absolutely freezing cold and dry, it's when it's cold and wet. When you get wet, you are stuffed. If you're wet, you don't get dry in 2-3 degrees. More people die when they're damp and just cold than in freezing temperatures. So yeah, SWEP's a funny one, but it's a lifesaver. It really is. It's designed to save life, and it does. There isn't an upper temperature in this country, which is funny, and you'll also find that working in an office environment as well. There's a lower one, not an upper one. So no, it's about being human. It really is. I think a lot of the time services can treat people as numbers, treat people as statistics. You know, I get into trouble for it, I do, because I'm supposed to be at a strategic level, but I make people real people, because at the end of the day, if you don't care, you shouldn't be doing the job, and that's one thing I do care. Roots to me has got the model right. You know, I mean, I wouldn't be involved and an avid supporter of Roots to Roots if I didn't believe in what they were doing. You know, I do tend to say it how it is. Roots to Roots have got the base, they've got the location, and they've got the right people coming into it. You know, whether that's drug and alcohol services, my teams, you know, podiatry, whatever. They've got the place. They bring the right people in. They provide a hub, and I know it's the bigger picture of Roots to Roots to have, you know, their own space more so, and a place that can be an active hub. But more importantly for me, and that's why I still remain involved so heavily with them, is they care. They have that level of love. They have that level of compassion, but they also provide the right services. I was a service user of Roots to Roots. I was homeless for 5 years. And that's how I first came across Roots to Roots. Moving forward, I got myself sorted, got myself into recovery, volunteered through an organisation that partnership worked with Roots to Roots. Later on, I worked in a drug and alcohol assessment centre that has now comes down and partnership works here. So I've always sort of worked alongside Roots to Roots, and then they asked me to be a trustee several years ago. I jumped at the chance, it was an honour. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, from the very start of sitting down with Pat and having a cup of tea to today, you know, being the service manager of St Mungo's, a trustee, you know, I don't see it any differently. You know, it makes no difference to me whether I'm a service manager, whether I'm sat on those steps shaking from alcohol withdrawal. You know, I'm a human being, and that's what Roots to Roots see. You know, they valued me as a person then, as they value my experience, knowledge and contacts now, so it means a lot.